As much as other topics which I could speak, I love this topic. It's because I have started my career as an editor and had been into this field of teaching. And most of the authors, they think of their article as the best. And it's no wonder that most of them have no idea about the editor's perspective of a research article. Most of them don't even know how a peer review is conducted, and they concentrate more on their research and research writing. But the thing is that you have to also understand what an editor's purview is all about. So that we are going to look after four of the important topics. The first one is the basics of a research article. We might have already seen so much in writing a research article, but still there are some basics that we have to engrave in our hearts, and that we are speaking now. At the second part is the peer reviewer's perspective of a research article. And the third one, we have to speak about retraction too. The last day we have spoken already about retraction, but it's not sufficient. If we have to think about the quality publication, we have to speak more about retraction. So we'll be speaking about retraction this day once again. And the last of this lecture is the reasons for the rejection of a research article. Sometimes our research articles are getting rejected and we are not cautious about it. What for it is rejected is the aim of last session. And getting into the basics of the research article, when you are looking at it, what we are actually doing is we are having some 10 important outlooks that we have to concentrate more. One of that is we are communicating something to the research community. And it's not that we are going to impress anybody, it's that we are communicating the information. Information is the key here, and you have to communicate it with all of the modest and decent ways. It's not that you have to impress the community with the jargons or invisible writings or masking it under some protective words which are very non-deliberative in nature. And if the communication is desirable for others, they would read your article and cite your article more than anything else. But if it is not desirable, and undesired writings can be rejected altogether. So whatever you communicate to the scientific community and don't try to impress others. And the next important thing is that we have to follow certain instructions. We think that we have much knowledge about research writing and the subject that we are taking it into consideration. But surprisingly, every journal that we have taken it into consideration has a guideline, and the guideline is missed badly. It's ignored to a great extent. For an author who is publishing a research article in a journal, instructions to authors is the key for them to follow. Of course, they have to carefully go through it, and it is the best practice for an author to read the instruction to authors and modify their article accordingly. It is a very good resource either way to publish the research article and to enrich our mind. And then the important thing is that we are impressed by so many research articles. The fact of the matter is, most of the research articles that we read can enter into our mind and make us to do similar researches. But the thing is that the impression comes from the big journal articles can play a vital role or a very key role in writing the good articles. The way you read and the way you get the information inside your mind speaks a lot. If you're getting an information from a piece of article that is published in a very nominal journal or a predatory journal which is of substantial standard, then it is not good that you get a good information in your mind. Sometimes you may come across some pseudoscience information which can corrupt your imagination, as well as when you are imitating that in your research article, the reflection of that would be an absolute nonsense. So always going for a good model is desirable. And the other important thing that we have to do is that we should not be in a hurry. Haste makes waste is an important proverb that you have to take it into consideration. Before you writing the article, have to take suitable information. And information collection or data mining is very important for us. Suitably, you have to scan various research articles and to go through good research sources so that it is possible for you to collect the previously published information before you go for writing a research article. What we actually do, we do the research, we write the research data, scribble it in a paper, write the introduction, copy certain things, and we frame the article. We miss collecting information and enriching our knowledge. Only those who have studied a lot in the school of thought, it is possible for them to write a good article. Gathering information is that much needed for us to do. And the most important of all, I would tell you, that is organization. If you are organizing, you are relating it with others and making it with a very, very good outlook. How about you doing this? Most of the time, we are concentrating most on the subject topic that we are speaking. We are making it very clear. It's because it is there in our mind. But the reason behind this is we are more concentrated on the research. But an editor who is not at all interested in research, most of the editors, they won't even publish one article in their lifetime. They edit alone. They look after various research articles, various construction of sentences. They criticize. They look after the things which are hidden inside the sentences too. So what they look for a dumping and an abundance of information with the correct correlation among one another. So organization of information is very much important for us, and it is that you have to set some blocks of time for writing. Most of them we think that it could be done within a day or within a night we can publish a research article. You cannot do that. You can spoof the scientific community if you are having such intentions in your mind. Time is an important factor which is deciding the quality of a research article. You have to block your time for researching, and you have to block your time for writing the research articles too. The best time is your lifetime. You can write an article in 3 years of time. If you are doing it for 3 years, then the research article would be shaped into a maximum extent. At least you have to write an article for 6 months of time before you go for publication. Writing an article within a month or making it very short within 1 week of time, it's not at all a good practice. Go for the best practice, like writing an article for 6 months of time, which will make you to write the best article and to publish it in a high impact journal. What can you keep in your mind? The best and the first thing to keep in your mind is the audience. Keeping audience in your mind may make you to write well, because readers are the judges and readers are the best people who is going to carry your research to the next level. And those readers should get a clench over your research article and they should be attracted by it. So the content, it should be for the readers and it should not be for yourself nor for the editor too. Interesting contents and interesting researchers which are placed with interesting writing styles can get more audience than the others. And out of these things, we have to derive something which is readable. If you look at some of the articles which are in the substantial journals, you can see them having long paragraphs. Paragraphs of information are not something very good. If you're writing the information for long paragraphs, nobody is there to read. In this time of very challengeable life, we are running out of time and we don't have enough time to read the sentences. If you are repeating the sentences with redundant thought in long paragraphs, motivation may not be there to read your research article. At last, the reader may quit reading the article and give up doing something like that. So what you have to do, you have to make it as small paragraphs and also not long sentences. This we have already discussed earlier, but I have to stress it once again. It's because it's very important. In some cases, some people, they don't even use punctuation marks. Punctuations and prepositions are lost things for us to master in English, and it is very important for us to use punctuations at the right place. If you are using a comma instead of full stop, it's going to be a big sentence. You may use some conjunctions like and therefore, but. You can extend the sentence, but making too many words in a single sentence, it's not going to be interesting. A reader cannot read the sentence in a full breath, and at last he will give up reading the sentences. So make it readable is very important. And the other important thing is that you have to include many headings.
Headings, subheadings are the keys that will make the reader to read in a very short period of time. And making it in bullet points is very important. I have to tell you this. Our mind is not attracted much to the verbals. And if somebody of you are asked to tell from Z to A, it is very difficult for us. We have studied it from LKG onwards. From our kindergartens, we have studied ABCD. But still it is difficult for us to tell it in the reverse pattern. From Z to A, it's difficult. But in case of numbers, if I'm asking you to tell from 100 to 1, it is possible. Numbers are more attractive than the words. Alphabets are less attractive than numbers. If you are using symbols, symbols are more attractive than the numbers. Shapes are more attractive than the symbols. Colorful pictorials are more attractive than the shapes too. And this is the order of sequence or the hierarchy which is there hidden inside the outlook that we are engraving in the research articles. So often you have to use some symbols and bulletin marks which will make the reader to get some attraction into the text. Not only that, you have to boldface as well as to italize some of the sentences which are in need. In case if you are quoting somebody, you have to italize. And that is a standard model. You have to read the instruction to authors once again, or getting the information like this. And readability is continued once again here. It's because it's more important. See, whatever you write, it should be feasible. Something which you are writing is not feasible comes under pseudoscience. And you use simple and common words. Don't use hidden words, or don't hide the meaning of the words behind the jargons. Delete needless words and condense the words and phrases. What you have to do is, you have to fundamentally check your article after you write it for more times that it is possible for you to come across all these things. Credit sources are very important. Yesterday we have seen about the copyright issues and plagiarism. So wherever it is possible, you have to credit the source, have to give the source citations, follow the instructions for the reference style so that it is possible for you to get it. And the utmost important of all is revising it. However, most of the researchers, they are not good at revising. They feel that whatever they have written is good. So seek the help of one another expert or a friend of you who is good in English as well as in the subject to revise your article. How many times you have revised the article is directly proportional to the impact of the research article in the society. So more the number of revision you have on a research article, it is going to reflect more in the society. And now we are getting into the peer reviewer's perspective, what a peer reviewer look for and what he is going to do. The first and foremost thing that a peer reviewer is looking for is the quality of a research article. He looks for the soundness of a research, suitability of the methodology and the analysis that has been carried out, and also the soundness of the analysis, the test that you have applied, the hypothesis that you have framed and checked, and the statistical application that you have used. The type of statistical test and the inference out of it, or the application of this research with much clarity that has been reported. And at last, he will also be looking for the language as well as the presentation. And both are very important, and it is like one eye when the other eye is the core of your research analysis. So we have to be very sure that the language and the style of the research article along with its presentation is good. And then the contribution to the literature is very important. There is already a pool of literature available in the world. And if you are adding a newspaper article or a research article, what you are doing is you are adding some information to the research community, which should be some novel. If it is not novel, there is no need for you to add this information. See, already there are so many research articles in this world. Why do you present this research article? Why do you need to write this research article? Exemplifies the novelty. So a peer reviewer would be looking for some novel discovery or some novelty in the research article. And then the most important is that it should have some importance to the society. The interest of the research article is relying on the importance, and he may also comment that it should be within the framework of the journal aim and scope. If you're choosing a journal which is irrelevant to the article, even though the article may be good or it is right in its perspective, it cannot be published in the journal, because journal is a specific form whereby it publishes only this discipline of choice. not on all the disciplines. So the aim and scope of the research article should come under the aim and scope of the journal so that it is possible for you to do. Also, publication ethics is very important. Plagiarism comes under this, copyright provisions comes under this, conflicts of interest comes under this, and giving some authority to others and licenses to the publisher all comes under this research ethics and publication ethics. And these things will contribute more when a peer reviewer is looking for it. When we speak about the research ethics, there are so much we have to think in case of biology. Using an animal research demands you to get permission from the authorities. Usually universities, they have to appoint a committee for giving you the permission. Without you getting this, it is impossible for you to go for publication. So a peer reviewer will look for the ethical choices and the ethical possibilities of this research, so that if it is not counted under this category, it will be rejected altogether. And the second important that we have to think about is the models of peer review. There are various models that we can speak about. One is closed peer review, and mostly they go for a single blind peer review. And many journals, they also go for double blind peer review. What is single blind and double blind? Peer review, when a person and one person is reviewing, it is single blind peer review. And when two persons are reviewing, it's a double blind peer review. Blind in the sense, the name of the author and the institution are masked. And peer reviews, it's done by peers, experts in the field. It's not the ordinary review or the English review that has happened inside the editorial office. It's somewhere outside the editorial office in most cases, but in some elite journals, they appoint subject editors inside their office too. So what happens here is that we have blind reviews which never reveal the author's name and institution, which is more pronounced. And the other important thing is open peer review. Some journals, they just go for open peer review. They send the research title along with the author's name as well as the affiliation to the reviewers. And the conflicts of interest may arise in this case too. But it's settled down in an open forum. In journal F1000, they perform a review with a modest kind of open peer. How come this? They publish an unreviewed article and they go for post-publication peer review. Anybody can comment this article, and a wide variety of reviewers can comment, and at last they would change it. They show the publication history then and there. And these kinds of reviewing are also popular and getting popular now. And after the peer review, what will happen? Editor will make a decision. And editors, they will agree with the peer reviewers sometimes they disagree with them too. And editors, they seek for some further advice if at all it is needed. Otherwise, they will forward the peer reviewer's instruction directly to the author. And what happens here is that some journals, they publish the pre-publication history too. For example, Biomed Central is keenly publishing the pre-publication histories. So if you are writing a very poor article, it will show the very poor content then in the website itself, and it cannot be removed. And publishing tips are very important for us. Editors and reviewers, they are looking for original and innovative research. But an author, they are looking for a high quality journal where they can publish. They keenly concentrate on the research and the findings that they could state. Also, when you look at the large studies, this gap is very important. There is a belt stretched between the editor and the author. And only for a person who understands both the calibers, it's possible for them to come into it. The bottom line is that you have to get it published. So modify your research article according to the journal instructions and use the right content with the clear, concise structures so that it is possible for you to get published. And while you are publishing, you have to be very cautious about retraction too. These days, retractions are getting very common. There is a separate website by name Retraction Watch, which watches over the retraction of various journals. Nature has retracted so many articles. BMC has retracted so many articles, and leading journals in the science has retracted so many articles in the recent past. And it's a caution that your article that is published is also watched by many people. In Biomed Central alone, it's 277 research articles which are retracted. Retraction is something which is a bad thing in the scientific community. If they feel that you are spoofing the scientific community over a period of time, they would ask you to retract your paper. And the possibilities is that the journal editor will present some notes on it, and they have to cut sorry figure in front of the scientific community too. And it makes clear that the journal author or the research article author cannot go for further publications. Most of the elite journals, they won't take your article into consideration if too many of your articles are rejected already, or if too many of your articles are retracted already. Retraction is something very dangerous, and if you look at it, US is doing this in a high count, and China is also emerging with retraction. It's because of the unethical practices that the authors are doing, and the rate of plagiarism as it is increasing, we have to do that. And what are the key things an editor is looking for? He will be looking for the scope of the research article, which syncs with the scope of the research journal. And then he will be looking for the clarity of the English language, the scientific sound, as well as the readability of the research article. He may also look for the interesting contents which are available inside the research article. If your article is not interesting, then it is not going to be a sound thing for the journal, so they may reject it. So now we are entering into the new point where what are the reasons for my article to get rejected. One of the important reason is that you are failing in the technical arena itself. When you submit a research article, the first thing that they go for is to check for the plagiarism. So when your article is counted for plagiarism, it cannot be published. They will reject it altogether. And the second important thing is that if your English is very poor, they cannot quote this article for the research journal, so they will reject it. And in most cases, I have seen figures and tables which are not clear, and some of them they don't put the figure in good resolution, and in some cases they use the tables of others and figures of others which are making very funny, and this is very important for us to take it into consideration. And some cases the authors won't even change the research title according to the guidelines of the research journal. So guidelines of the research journal are very important to be taken into consideration, but while you are missing that, you are missing the mark, and you are making us not to do that in the right way. So the journal editors will just reject the article altogether. And references, some cases they are incomplete, they don't even change the format, they don't even follow the rules and regulations of the journal, whereby the reference format is functionalized and structured. Every journal has their own format which comes under the broad classification of formats, and these days we have so many softwares like Sotiro, Mendeley and the EndNote which could help us deriving the reference in different formats and different styles. So we have to be very cautious in that. And the most important thing is that if your article is not coming into the aim and scope of the journal, it cannot be published. Mostly you might have written something very good, but if the article is not under the purview of the journal aim and scope, it cannot be published, it should be rejected. And the other important thing is that some authors, they write incomplete research articles. They start with some observation, but they never go for writing about it in the results discussion as well as in the conclusion. They start some observation in the introduction part. It looks very fussy. And then some of them, they put some methodology in the materials and methods section, but they never do that experiment in the results section. It shows that they have done some research, but only a part of this research is going to be published, but they have unknowingly included that materials and methods into the paper of consideration, which is something very, very, very naughty, and you have to avoid this. These are serious errors. If you revise the article, as though I have already told you, it would be possible for you to do that in a very good manner. And some discussions of the findings, they are very poor. People, they go for writing their results and they justify by themselves what on earth they are doing. How can they discuss by themselves? If I'm speaking with myself, what is it actually? I have to communicate you, and if there is no audience for my speech, and if I am not speaking or having a discussion with you, I should not put it as a discussion. What is the use of writing a discussion by giving your own verdict? It's not that. You have to use all the other citations in the field of research, all the other research publications in the field of research, and then to come to the conclusion of what it is now. And also, in some cases, procedures and analysis, they are defective. And in most of the scientific experiments, we need control groups. It's because control groups are the one which is determining the quality of the subject matter that we are dealing with. Comparison gives us, if you are taking one experiment and doing it for one time, it is not actually science. You have to repeat it for at least 3 times. And the mean plus the standard deviation is the one that should be reflected in the results. And an editor will always look for mean plus standard deviation in the numericals that are found on the tables. If you are writing one particular numerical, it seems that you have done for only one time. Repeating and redundance in the research arena is very important. You should not do some redundance in writing, but you should do some redundance in working. That is very important. Research work should be repeated. And elsewhere, if a person is getting interest out of your research article, and if he's trying it in his laboratory, it should work out. So repeating the experiment is very important. So control groups and the comparison of the matrices are very important. If a person is miserably not doing this, then he or she will not be counted for the publication. And then the conclusions should justify the paper. Some of the arguments are illogical, and they go for baffling the field which is already there without any evidence or without any strong scientific backend. So conclusions without having some literature backend or the work that they have done is not taken into be a graded conclusion. And when you are looking at the conclusion, some people, they do conclusion like this. They do a research which is very different, and when they conclude with something which is not at all related to the research. They conclude in the third level of what they should not do. You can come out with all these predictions in the discussion session, and then you can go for conclusion. If you are not predicting that in the discussion session, then you should not go for all these things that conclusions do. And also, extension of this different papers should be there. It should be simple. And findings, they always have to be incremental and should come with the advanced field of choice. And when you are looking at the research article, what you have to do is, you have to clearly chop the research articles, and you have to make some extension possibilities too. If your article is not something which is going to affect the society, then it is not going to be useful. And it should be comprehensible. If it is incomprehensible, then you cannot publish the research article in the journal, and the editor will reject it. The reason why is because most of us are not native speakers. What we do actually is we write as if we are speaking. And native speakers, even they have this problem. And language has a specific structure. When you are not adapting to this structure of English, then you cannot comprehend the text that is there inside your mind. And most of the research articles, they are boring. And if it is boring, an editor cannot publish a research article. It is for an archival purpose. So an editor will seek for a content which is very interesting. If it is interested to the readers, and readers will cite, quote, and remerge the article into different forms. They may even quote in their blogs, they may write some magazine articles out of the discoveries that are happening here. But if it is boring with too many letters, too many things that are not desirable, then the editor will reject it.